Good evening, everyone that may be on the Zoom or watching us on our live stream on YouTube. We currently are waiting for a quorum of the board, so just hang in there and be patient, and we'll get started in just a minute. Good evening, those that are been waiting. Thank you for those that are waiting. We do have a quorum. We have 3 board members now, so we will begin and can call the meeting to order. Yeah, you can go ahead and.
We will call the meeting to order now. Yes.
Roll call, Dorothy Ariasi,
Here.
Ramona Nelwood, Mark Little, Bessie Allen.
Here.
Miranda Bitsui. Here. Madam Board President, there is a quorum, you may proceed with the meeting.
Okay, we have 3 board members present, so that makes a quorum. Yate, Shayab Dorothy Yazin, Shiedo, my deshkin song, Ashkanzo, Bashindo, Torichini, the Shichedo, Hanadashanala. I'm from Black Mesa chapter area. Ado, she not hold just we have a quorum, so and we'll go to the agenda on the adoption of the agenda.
Good evening, Madam President, members of the board. For this evening, our agenda, we did item 1.2 already, swear in of newly appointed governing board member. That doesn't have to be done in a board meeting. So while we were waiting, we've accomplished that. Tonight on the agenda, we have the superintendent's report, which is informational only. We have acknowledgements and recognition from elementary, middle, high school, and our CTE program. We have the consent agenda, and consent agenda items are just routine in nature. They're either monthly or sometimes annual. Each year we have to, do a specific thing. So that's what's the consent agenda is made up for. Board minutes, the vouchers, financial stuff between meetings, and then we have destruction of records. That's something that we have to do periodically based on the library commission. And then a disposal listing of some items. The general statement of assurances is what that has to be submitted each year, and that's how we get our money. We're not eligible for any state or federal funds unless that is approved. And then a contract for E-rate services. So that's on the consent agenda. New business, I'm proposing that we continue distance learning till the end of the year. We have 3 items related to next year's contracts, the salary schedules, and we bring those before the board each year just to have them adopted for the upcoming year. And then the contract language as well. We take that through the attorney every year just to have them review it, and then we have the board adopt the contract language itself. And it's only the contract language. You're not hiring anybody at this meeting. It's just approving the language that will be on the contracts. And then we have a request to create a new position and advertise under new business. And then a possible executive session. That's if the board feels that there's a reason to go in to executive session to talk about any personnel items. And under personnel, we have a little bit of everything. We have some new hires, we have resignations, we have retirements, we have rescinding a retirement. So under those items, we have a little bit of everything. I would ask the board, the motioning party, that if you're looking at the agenda in personnel in item 7.5, discussion and possible action to approve the hire of ESS health aide, Mr. Reginald Burbank. We received an employment verification after we had to close the agenda. So we would amend that to be at high school plus 41 step 6 at $15.50 per hour. That would be the only correction. With that, I would request that the board members adopt the agenda as presented with that correction.
Okay. Board members and staff members, thank you for being here. Especially Ellen, I see back. I can't stay away from the board. I love this school so much that I have to come back. Anyway, I'll go ahead and motion to adopt the agenda as read. As superintendent indicated, under personnel, number 7.5, the classification, for Reginald for the same fee, high school, is it 41 or additional?
High school plus 41, step 6 at $15.50 per hour.
That would be done. And we recognize and be included.
Second. Miranda, the two make the you second the motion? Okay.
Second, Ron.
Call for a vote now.
So Tanya, can you call, one of the things they recommended at the votes was to do a roll call vote, so can you just run down board members and do a roll call vote?
Thank you.
Miranda, the two week, how do you vote? Yes. Bessie, Alan,
Aye.
Brooke, Yasi,
Aye.
three in favor.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda is the superintendent's report.
Good evening again, Madam President, members of the board. Superintendent report for this month, just some updates. First, the enrollment for, we're getting feedback.
Yeah, I don't know. My phone is out. No, it's the computer. Something else is going on. Is it not me?
Sorry about, we had just a quick audio issue. So on the superintendent's report enrollment, this was taken on February 1st. We increased by 4 students. We're up to 980. That is still obviously down from prior year, but at least this month we moved in the right direction by increasing 4 students. One of the things that I learned in one of my meetings this week with other superintendents around the state and representatives from Arizona Department of Education is that statewide, they're reporting 50,000 students have dropped out this year. The state enrollment is down by 50,000 students. That's all Arizona public district and charter schools. It's down by 50,000 students, which is about 4.5%. So A lot of it, I think, has to do with the distance learning and just the COVID pandemic. Kids are staying home, and the 10-day rule is still in effect. So students who don't, log in or call in or participate, and if they miss 10 days in a row, then they're automatically dropped. I think that's where a lot of that is coming from. So it's not just us. All the schools around us are reporting enrollment declines too. So obviously, we're hoping that as the situation improves and we move forward, more of those kids will come back. Human resources update, there's a list here of positions that we're currently looking for. The activities or athletic director is ongoing screening. We've currently have 6 applicants that were that we either are or have reviewed already for that position. And at this, if we found one, we could hire them now because the position's vacant, but we're really looking more for next year because we don't have athletics this year. We're always looking for substitute teachers. Regular certified substitute teachers means that they have a bachelor's degree. And then an emergency certified substitute teacher is a high school diploma. So that's the difference between the two. And there's a little bit difference in the paperwork and stuff that goes with it, but that's, we're always looking for those. We do have a teacher on the agenda for this evening for governing board approval, exceptional student services. Art has been vacant, an instructional coach has been vacant. Those are both at the middle school. At the high school, we're looking for an automotive, an agriculture, and a welding teacher. Those positions have become vacant over the course of this year. We're looking for substitute custodians. So those are not full-time. They're just, we would call them kind of like a substitute teacher. We would call them in as needed to cover for a vacancy. And then we need a maintenance worker with the specialty in waste management technician. So that's part of our trash initiative. They need the CDL license to be able to do the trash truck. We have a school secretary on the agenda later and a health aide on the agenda later to fill those positions. And we have applicants for the substitute bus monitor. That's part of the special education department. For this year, we're looking at virtual recruitment fairs. Pretty much all the job fairs that we used to go to have been changed to like Zoom or online somehow. We're not having those job fairs where you actually go and sit at a table and try to talk to people. Those have all been canceled because of the COVID pandemic, unfortunately. We also have Frontline, which is where a lot of our advertisements and everything go through Frontline, the application now, which is an automated process. And most of the vacancies that we filled, especially for teachers, have come through Frontline this year. So that has been a good addition. Of course, we're also doing website postings. We're looking at newspaper advertisements and all those standard things as well. Evaluations are ongoing. That's district-wide. Update on COVID vaccinations. I believe all of our Pinyon employees that had requested to be on the list have had their first dose now, and we're in the second round. I had mine last week. We've had several employees that have had their second dose now. We're getting reports, and this is sort of all over, not just with Pinyon, that the second dose impacts people more than the first dose. So we've had, once they've had their first dose, they've been either out sick the next day or maybe working from home or something just because of the symptoms that have come with that. Under facilities, and some of these, we can do more detailed reports either in a work session or just at other board meetings. But we have staff housing, which is, for those, if you're not familiar, we have the west side of campus is all staff housing. And we've been, for the last, 3 years, we've been in a renovation project there. and making good progress. Our maintenance department's doing a very good job on those units. It's time consuming to, because they really tear them apart and put them back together. And a big part of that is new windows, new doors, new fixtures, new flooring. So when you walk into those units, they really, you wouldn't know that the unit might be 20 or more years old. They look brand new. And then I mentioned earlier, we have the trash and recycling program as well, where we have our own people doing that on campus and hauling it off. And that is, the initial cost was high to buy all the stuff, but now we're saving monthly compared to when we had Navajo sanitation previously. Also, there's an agenda item later about the inventory control system in that department. Of course, we've been doing, well, not we, I haven't been part of it, but our maintenance department has been doing snow removal in these last few storms, salting, clearing ice, and getting things ready. And then we're also looking at a study of our HVAC systems, possibly replacement filters. Due to COVID, there's some new items out there now that we can use in our system that have higher, better filtration than what we have now. Some of that will be using our CARES Act funds, and some of it, if it's a full replacement, we're going to try to go through the School Facilities Board, the Arizona Facilities Board, because they fund HVAC systems. So that would save us some money.
We still use the folder?
We do, yes, we still have those. The electrostatic foggers, we still have those, and all the other sanitation equipment is still out. Some of it is still actually in the boxes because we haven't had students on campus, so we haven't had to break it out yet, but we have all of those, yes. Which goes a good lead into the transportation department. We have Wi-Fi on 14 of our school buses, which is good. They become hotspots. The bus drivers are doing breakfast and lunch deliveries, and that's twice a week. And then they also have homework packets, school supplies, other things on the buses when they go out on the Tuesday, Thursday run. We're replacing the older Eagle bus, and that's in process. And then we're looking at the white fleet vehicles. So basically any vehicle that we have that's not a school bus, we're looking at also looking at how many miles, how old they are, end of life kind of things. And then we have the electrostatic fogger to if or when we start transporting students again, we have the foggers for every bus. So the bus driver will be able to, between routes, go down and fog everything to disinfect. So those are here on campus. Another update, our distance learning plan was submitted and approved to the Arizona Department of Education, and it runs through March 5th, which is the last day of third quarter. So later on the agenda, there's an item where I will be requesting for the board to extend that through till the end of the school year. I guess I've been taking a conservative approach and looking at it quarter by quarter just to see what the situation is. The situation is improving, but it's still not where it needs to be to safely reopen schools and have, kids back on campus and everybody back in the classrooms. And then part of Governor Ducey's executive order was on-site services for students. So if we're not providing in-classroom instruction, then we're supposed to be providing on-campus support services, which is kind of like study hall, where kids can come and be during the day. We have a waiver right now for that based on the Navajo Nation's shelter-in-place order. We've had a waiver in place really since the very beginning of the school year. We just keep extending it. The current waiver is in place until February 26th, and then I'll reapply based on whatever documents we have to see if the Department of Ed will extend that waiver. And then, and the actual waiver is attached in the board packet for anybody that wanted to see that. All students. The on-site waiver is basically, it would be available to anyone, any student that wanted to come. We can set some like limits to how many kids can be, just for space and safety. I mean, there are some ways that we can limit it, but it really is open to anybody that wants to participate. Under the governor's order for a public school in Arizona. Now I know BIE schools, you know, in different areas may have different requirements, but that's the Arizona public school requirement. And then just, I guess last, our two new board members may not know about NAFIS, which is the National Association of Federally Impacted Schools. We are, you know, over half of our budget each year comes from impact aid, which is a federal program that replaces tax dollars because we're totally on federal land on Navajo Nation. We can't tax anybody. So the federal government, Congress, authorizes money that we get to backfill that money that we can't do in taxes. Normally, we go out to Washington, D.C. and actually meet with members of Congress and their staffers. And, you know, we're kind of all over Capitol Hill and it's a conference and there's sessions. This year, well, last March it was canceled. September, it was virtual, and now this one in March will be virtual. And the dates are March 15, 16, and 17. So if board members can check their calendars, if you're available on those days, we can let me know or let Tanya know, we'll register you. There is a cost, but it's a very minimal cost. And it's all done on Zoom. It's all electronic. So just be aware that we won't actually be going out to advocate in Washington, D.C., but we will still be advocating. So on those dates, that's right after spring break. So March 15th, 16th, and 17th. So that basically is the just summary of current events report for the board.
Okay, if there's no question, then we'll go on to the next item.
Board members, Madam Board President. On this latest, is it tuition fee? What do we have to pay?
We pay, it's a very small fee. It's not as expensive as when we go out there. It's just a very small fee.
It's a good one to attend. And the last time we had appointments with different homes from here. On Zoom. And it was good, it was interesting. We did it here. Just Zoom in and talk to some of the representatives. I hope we can come in and involve it together and stuff.
Well, I did say I was interested in it.
The nice thing too, I think they're still going to have their session, like the basics of impact aid and some of those other sessions where you could tune in and get kind of a crash course in the impact aid program. So if you are available, we'll get you registered and get you into those sessions and we can facilitate that. Right.
Money, every dollar is 50 cents from each taxation, or maybe 51 cents. The rest is from the state aid. So we really depend on that federal money.
Okay, any other questions, board members? Okay, so let's go on to the next item. Number 3, acknowledge and recognition.
Madam President, members of the board, next item would be 3.1, acknowledgement of Pinyon Elementary School student, staff, and parents of the month. Let me click over here. This is submitted monthly by Pinyon Elementary School staff. So for our Pinyon Elementary School staff member of the month is Gerald Begay, who is our Pinyon Elementary School secretary. And I know very pleasant person to work with, very helpful. Our PES parent of the month is Deanne So from, this was a nomination by Serafina Baya, who's one of our 5th grade teachers. I don't have the specific write-ups there, but definitely congratulations to Mr. Begay and Ms. So. And then what Pinyon Elementary does, instead of just picking one student, they have each teacher pick a student to recognize. So that's why the list is so long. So in pre-K, we have Mila Taylor. In kindergarten, we have Jordan Taylor. Oh, I'm sorry, Mila Nez. And then kindergarten, we have Jordan Taylor. Kindergarten, we have Thomas Begay. And in kindergarten, we have Kandera Atakai. And my apologies for mispronouncing names. In 1st grade, we have Zane Sosi, Melody Gray Eyes, Alexis Taylor, and there are 3 classes of 1st grade. And then in we have 4 classes in 2nd grade. So we have Myron Slim, Serenity Gray Eyes, Wesley Charlie, and Natalie Sosi. And then we have 3 sorry, 3rd grade, we have Caleb Willie, Liam Begay, and Rayanne Begay. In 4th grade, we have Jeremy Kaidito, Tyam Preston, Irvin Hosteen, and Aurora Sosi. And then in 5th grade, we have Caitlin Labahi, Reynaldo Nelwood, Roland Begay, and Kayla Ben. And then our exploratory staff, basically anybody that's not a classroom teacher but has classes also recommends. So we have Candace Begay, Jamero Johns, Montgomery McDonald, Warren Johnson, Tyann Yazzie, twice on my list, and then Tian Preston and Kilea Johnson. And then from specials, which are also like PE and those classes, we have Jake Kiani, Valdrian Denny, and Lanaya Johnson. So congratulations to everyone from Pinyon Elementary School being our student parent staff of the month. One of the things too, if you go to our website, the website has been redesigned. They've just published the new website. The web link and everything is the same, but they've just redesigned the page. So one of the things we are trying to put in there also is a place to do these recognition events and to be posting some of this stuff. So we are working through that process to get more public recognition of the people on these lists. So that, again, congratulations to everyone from Pinyon Elementary School. If there's no, I can move on to the next one. Okay, the next one, item 3.2 is acknowledgement of Pinyon Accelerated Middle School, student, parent, and staff of the month. So for student of the month in 6th grade, we have Taylor Yazzie. In 7th grade, Trayvon Brown. And 8th grade, Delana Ticini. And then parent of the month for 6th grade, we have Tiffany Riggs. 7th grade, Kamala Begay. And 8th grade, Elizabeth James. And then our staff of the month is the principal, Ms. Lori Chi, who is nominated by the Pinyon staff. So congratulations to those students, to parents, and to Ms. Chi, who's been doing a great job leading the school through these kind of crazy COVID times. So congratulations to everyone at the middle school. And then I can move on to 3.3 is the acknowledgement of the high school student parent staff of the month. So the student of the month is Tanaya Key, 11th grade. She submits work on time. Oh, let me pull up the right one here. Submits work on time, asks questions beyond the lessons given, 99% plus on almost all of the work, and attends Zoom. The classroom meets regularly. She represents the excellence that we're striving to instill in all of our students. So congratulations to Ms. Key. Our parent of the month is Pamela Mead, who many of you know works several different grant programs and all kinds of things through Navajo Nation and IHS, and partners with Pinyon Clinic and partners with Pinyon Unified School District. So congratulations to Pamela Mead. She supports her son, Ian Mead, who's a senior. That doesn't seem possible that he's a senior. In the National Honor Society, for example, they donated more than what was expected for the turkey baskets. Doesn't matter how busy she is, she always has nice things to say about everyone and always helps the community as well as the school. She's a great example of what parents should strive to be during this pandemic, as she's always there for her kids, telling them that no matter what is going on, we still need to get things done. I definitely concur there. And for our staff of the month is Amy Eckenweiler, who is a long-term substitute at Pinyon High School. She goes above and beyond her duties, always lends a helping hand, not only just to the specific teacher she's working with, but to all teachers when in need. So congratulations to our Pinyon High School student, parent, and staff members of the month. And then our CTE program also nominates a student of the month. So this student, this is item 3.4. Pinyon High School CTE student of the month is Relanti Begay, and he's nominated by his teacher, the construction teacher, Mr. Murdoch James. Mr. Murdoch James says that great communication with him. He'll call in to say his assignments are on the way and his mother will verify. He's the only student in the class who asks if he can pick up his paper packets early. So congratulations to our CTE student of the month.
Okay, thank you. Board member, do you have any questions about the recognitions?
Congratulations to the kids and the awards and the parents. And between the student parent of the month.
Yes, thank you, students, staff. Doing a great job. So keep up the great work. With that, we continue with the agenda. Next, we move to consent agenda.
And just a reminder to the members of the board, there's no discussion of the consent agenda. It's just one motion approves everything on the consent agenda. If there was something that you wanted to discuss, then you would just motion to not, basically to take that off, and we would put it under new business.
May I have a motion to approve the items under consent agenda?
I'll go ahead and motion to approve the consent agenda. All of them, 4.1, 4.2, 4.3, 4.4, and 4.5.
There's more of them.
There's also 6 and 7 on the bottom.
Yeah, on the back, 4.6. Read that.
Oh, 4.6. I didn't, okay, sorry. Yeah, the 4.6, 4.7, and 4.8. Little things, consent agenda.
Okay, it was motion is second by Miranda. And all voting in favor. Aye.
3 in favor, 0 opposed.
Thank you. Let's move on to the next item.
Madam President, members of the board, the next item is 5.1. Discussion and possible action to approve scenario 3, all students distance learning on the ADE roadmap for reopening schools for the 4th quarter of school year 2020-2021. So some background for our new board members who weren't part of this. Governor Ducey at the beginning of this school year issued an executive order that gave some flexibility to the school districts across the state, the local governing boards, to decide how best to phase back in instruction. The Arizona Department of Education under Superintendent Hoffman then put together 4 different scenarios. One of those scenarios is all students come back to campus and learn in the classrooms. The other scenario, scenario 2, is hybrid, which is you've got some kids on campus sometimes, other kids not on campus, and it might look like an AB day or just different ways to put that together in the hybrid option. Scenario 3 is all students distance learning, so we have no students on campus. And then scenario 4 was kind of all of the above. I mean, you just sort of change from maybe week to week or month to month just based on the situation. Since the very beginning of this school year, I've been recommending to the governing board quarter by quarter that we adopt scenario 3, which is all students distance learning. Obviously there are issues with distance learning and internet connectivity. Not all students can get internet where they live. For those students, we do paper packets and mailing and other kinds of things to keep them engaged, telephone calls. Basically, we try to engage the students in any way we can. But just based on health and safety, I still believe it is best to continue with distance learning. As mentioned earlier in my board report, we have most all of our staff now have had the first dose of vaccine. We're in the second round for most of us. But in the call today, and I've been on a lot of calls this week, with CDC, with Navajo Nation, with the Arizona Department of Education, they're all basically saying the same thing, that even if you have had both doses of the vaccine, it still takes a week or 2 before you're fully up to resistance. And the other thing to remember is vaccines are only 95% effective. So if you're one of those people in the 5% that it's not working for, you can still get it. And the other thing to consider, well, 2 other things to consider is right now the vaccine is only for adults. So bringing, potentially 900 students back on campus who are not vaccinated would be quite an issue. And I personally would be afraid that the school district would become one of those super spreader events where you have 1 or 2 students who come, they're infected, they start infecting it and push it out to everyone else. The other thing to consider is there are now, in addition to the regular COVID virus that we've been dealing with for almost a year, there are 3 new variations of it that are out there, those mutations. The first mutation that came out of the UK They have verified that it is in Arizona, it is in New Mexico, it is in Utah, it is in Colorado, it is in Nevada, it is in California, so it's all around us. Navajo Nation has not specifically identified a case yet through IHS and testing here on Navajo Nation, but it's all around us. So it's only a matter of time. And that one, so far has shown to hit kids harder than the other one, and it is also more contagious. The other two variants that are kind of new, one came out of Brazil and one came out of South Africa. So far, they are not in Arizona or in our in our immediate area. The other thing that I included on here, just as a supporting document, is a resolution of the Navajo Nation Board of Education approving and requiring that all Navajo Nation schools provide virtual or online learning options only, with no face-to-face instruction for the second semester of the school year. So you have that in your board packet as well to review it if you haven't seen it. There's always a little bit of a debate as an Arizona public school, the specific jurisdictions that Navajo Nation has over us. But this is one of those. Our attorney has always said, way back, even before I was superintendent, I always remember her saying that it's just, go along with what Navajo Nation wants as long as it doesn't violate state or federal law. We're here on Navajo Nation. We should abide by what they would like us to do. And this, having the distance learning for fourth quarter does not violate Arizona law. It is one of the options. So I'm very comfortable recommending that. I know that was just quick, but basically we would just be extending what we're doing right now through the end of the school year, should the board approve.
May I have a motion to approve this item?
Now, what is the motion on that? If this is what you're talking about, Thursday meeting, I just hear one of the leaders already say that, he doesn't want it to even go get,
Okay. Thank you, board members. Just a note too, I know that Ganado School District and Window Rock School District have also done through the end of the school year with distance learning. I haven't heard officially what the other districts have done yet, but I know at least 2 other districts have done that with the distance learning. So, okay, moving on then to item 5.2. Discussion and possible action to approve revisions to the certified non-administrative, which is basically the teacher salary schedule, and the certified administrator placement schedule, which would go into effect for next year. There are 6 different salary schedules. They were all attached. If you had an opportunity to see them, I can show them here on the screen as we go through. So we have one that's the 10-month certified non-admin, which is your classroom teachers. We have 11-month certified, which are generally your well, they're 11-month are those that are on an extended contract, so they're not really on the teacher contract, which is 10-month. They're on an extended contract. Then we have coordinator, director, dean of students salary schedule. We have one for assistant principals. We have one that includes our principals, curriculum director, and our ESS, exceptional student services. And then we have another one for activities director. Just to give some background to the board, new board members, we, over the last 2 years, with Mrs. Kasurik, who's our HR director, and even prior to her, when Ms. Meadows was our HR director, did a very thorough investigation into all the, I guess, public school districts around us and around the state, just to see how we compare with everyone else. We want to be competitive. So for the certified schedule, at the time, we were number 2 on Navajo Nation in terms of our starting salary for teachers and administrators and the placement that went. So the only recommended change that we're making is, and you can see up here on the screen, or for those following along, is prior we had the master's plus 48 and the PhD or EDD degree in the same column. And there was some talk in previous board meetings about separating that and actually making the PhD column its own column. So what Mrs. Kasurik did is just that, took the PhD column and just added one more column to the right, same scale, same increments, and just added that scale on all the certified schedules. So any of our current employees would be eligible to move over if they have the ED, or PhD. And then, of course, any new staff coming in would be eligible for that. And then down below, we list there's no recommended changes to any of these, but this just shows you the stipends that are attached. So a teacher that comes in with a science endorsement or science certificate, because that's considered high needs, they get an additional $2,000 in addition to their placement up above. The same with math. Special education, of course, is a very high need area. STEM, reading and reading endorsements and those things. We also do an additional stipend for any of the teachers that have the Native American language certificate. They typically work in our Diné Studies program. So that's the general certified, and then same thing for the 11 months. Just add that PhD column. Same thing on activities and all the different ones. That really, that's all we're asking, is to just add that additional column, to split out PhD and add it to the right.
Okay, may I have a motion to approve this item?
So the only adjustment or the city would be someone with
Mhm.
PhD.
Correct. That's actually going to come next month. The schedules will stay the same. What we'll be proposing next month with the contract renewals is a step increase, which would mean all employees would move down a step. But this schedule would actually, this amount would stay the same. It's just the employee would move on the schedule.
Yeah.
Just this, this was just adopted and put in place for this year. So this is new. This was all new this year. Oh, for for employees, you mean? Yes, last spring and then in the contract year. Well, the district.
So staff would be moving down,
Yeah.
up on the salary schedule.
Okay, well, that isn't this item. That'll come at the next meeting, but I understand what you're saying, but that's not, basically all we're asking here is to adopt this salary schedule for the new year and add this column.
Yeah, ask for a motion again to approve this change.
The motion would be,
Add a column for the ED or PhD level.
So Miranda makes the motion.
You made a motion, right, second?
can you go ahead and put, see, there's a bunch of words here, over here. So, the motion would be.
It would be, motion to approve revisions to the certified non-administrator and certified administrator placement schedules for next year to include an additional column for EDD and PhD degree levels.
I'll go ahead and motion the recommendation. Take all the words.
Okay, Bessie, motion and Miranda seconded, so we're adding a new level for the PhD and ED. That's all we're doing.
Mhm.
Okay, board members, do we have the, in the row?
Aye.
Three favors.
And then we
Go
could,
to the next item.
so the next item then is essentially the same thing, 5.3, to approve the classified placement schedules. And in this one, we're actually not recommending, the business office and HR and I are not recommending any changes other than just the date at the top would change for the new school year, but we're not recommending any changes to this one. So basically, you're just re-adopting what's already there.
Did you,
But if we were to add a, let's say, an annual increase to the scale, that would be separate from this one. So you
Right.
just add on.
Yeah, all you're doing here is approving the scale itself. The actual increase would be in the agenda item when we renew staff.
The second, okay.
Mhm.
okay, may I have a motion to approve this item, to approve the classified administrative placement schedule effective July 1st, 2021.
I think that a motion to approve the first one is the
I'll go ahead and second. Motion.
board member Allen,
Aye.
Thank you, board members. And then let me get to the right screen here. So the next item then is 5.4, discussion of possible action to approve the employee contract language for school year 2021, 2022. Every year we send our contracts, just the blank contract language to our attorney's office for them to review, just to be sure there's been no changes to, federal law, state law, board policy, Navajo Nation law that it would impact the contracts. Hufford and Horseman is our attorney, and we had either Patrice or Nathan, who we work with at Hufford and Horseman. The only recommendation they made for any revisions to the contract, again, was just to change the year. So just to put the correct new year for the contract. Otherwise, all the contract language in the classified and the certified administrative contracts would remain the same as it was for this year.
Okay, board members, you understand that? So do I hear May I have a motion to approve the employee contract language for school year 2021 and 2022? Motion by Miranda, second, do I hear a second?
I'll go ahead and second the motion.
Second by Ms. Helen.
Board member Bixley, how do you vote? Board member Allen? Board member Johnson?
Aye.
Three in favor.
Erase that one. Item to 5.5.
Item 5.5 is discussion and possible action to approve a new position. So we would be creating a maintenance property control technician position. The job description is attached, and if the board approves to authorize the position and the job description, then we would begin advertising for the position. So the maintenance property control technician would be a 12-month contract, meaning they work year-round because our maintenance department works year-round. It's a classified placement schedule, and based on other similar positions in the district, it would be grade 2. So that's the salary schedule that it would fall to. Just in terms of some background, we've done something similar previously in the transportation department. And this really has to do with inventory control. So making sure that everything is inventoried, that everything is accounted for, that we know when to order new parts or materials. Because we have, everything that we purchase comes in and it goes to the warehouse where there's that initial inventory and the receiving, and it gets tagged if it's capital equipment. And then it goes out to the departments. But once it goes to the departments, you have a lot of people all just sort of coming in and getting what they need. We had the same issue in transportation that we have now in the maintenance department. And it's just hard to keep track of inventory and keep track of everything when you have so many different people going in and kind of taking things. I don't mean taking things in a bad way, but I mean, they're just all, it's hard to keep track. Do we need more of this? Do we need more of that? Where's this? Where's that? Because different people are taking it and putting it, away in different places. So what we want to do is create a position that basically is their job, is just to keep track of everything, keep everything counted, keep everything organized, be sure if something goes out that it comes back. If it's consumable, which a lot of the maintenance stuff is, they use it at the work site, that we're, marking off, hey, we use this, we need to order more. That's what this position would be doing. So this is what the job description would look like. So it's the maintenance parts technician, and this is attached in board docs. So when you see, this is just kind of a crash course in how to read these for any position. We have the job title. The term of employment for us would either be 10, 11, or 12-month contract. Salary tells you which salary schedule and then what grade or column that position would be in. FLSA is Fair Labor Standards Act. And when it says non-exempt, that means the person would be a time clock employee. So they will clock in and clock out every day. If you see a position which would normally be administrative or classroom teacher where it says exempt, that means they're salaried. So they don't actually use the time clock. They're just paid that salaried amount. Benefits, where it says standard package, that means that they would get, they're eligible for our RSNA Gilspar, which is medical, dental, vision insurance, so they can opt into that. The other benefits is they're part of the state retirement system. They're covered under workman's compensation. They would be eligible for disability or unemployment should that come up. So that's really the benefits package. And I think every job description says standard package because everybody basically gets the same thing. Then under qualifications, this would vary based on the position, and this is what so when the HR department screens applicants, this is what they look for. So the qualifications, this person must have a high school diploma or a GED certificate. They should have general knowledge of warehouse practices, including inventory. Skill in working in environments subject to frequent interruptions, because they're going to have, people are going to be coming and wanting stuff from them all day long. Skill in communicating courteously and professionally. Must be proficient with standard business software, because most everything we do anymore is online in some way or another. And then all of our job descriptions, this was something the board asked to be inserted many years ago, and it's on all of our job descriptions, is must have a proven successful employment record. So that's part of what our HR department does, is they look at the application, they look at the job history and be sure that that person has a good record of employment. The job goal for this position is to establish and maintain efficient maintenance supplies, distribution and up-to-date inventory of supplies and equipment for maintenance. And the specific duties and responsibilities are listed. I won't read all of those, but they're there. And again, the last duty or responsibility on every job description that we have in the district says performs other duties as assigned. That basically means that if we need an employee to do something that's reasonable, if it doesn't fall into one of these top 9, then we can still ask them to do it. And then all of our job descriptions have a reports to. So in this case, it would report to the facilities director, which is Mr. McLaughlin. And this basically lists who the supervisor is. This is the person who would approve leave, does day-to-day supervision and oversight, does the evaluation. All of that is the reports to. And then all of our job descriptions basically say evaluation will be in accordance with board policy on evaluation for support services. And that there's 2 different policies. One policy is for certified and one policy is for classified, but the whole evaluation is listed in your governing board policy manual. And then where it says employee signature and date is, we print this out, and when someone is hired, the supervisor will sit down and go through the job description with them. And then we have the employee sign and date that happened, and that goes on file as documentation that the supervisor actually sat down and went through the job with them. So what we're asking in this item is for the governing board to approve the creation of the maintenance property control technician position and to approve the job description. And once the board has done that, we would start advertising for the position. And this is something the board always asks is there funding for this position? And yes, there is. We've already worked with the business office and Mr. Allen about where this is going to be funded out of, and the funding is there for this position.
All this sorted out, so I'll go ahead and motion to create. Motion to approve to create a maintenance property control technician position. Then the job description, and advertise the position for hiring. For a Quorum position. Classified placement will be grade 2.
Correct.
Motion on the table. Ms. Ellen.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear the first part. That's a good question. No, based on how we budgeted this position and what we're looking at, it won't impact this. This year and next year, our overall budget will remain approximately the same. Mainly because of impact aid, but our budget will remain approximately the same for the remainder of this year and for the upcoming school year.
The way this year budget this school year, even though the student count is lower because of the pandemic, impact aid is going to fund at last year.
Yes.
We were on the street for last some time ago, and then the state is going to do the same, so we'll have a funding at that level. Last year's student count. 19, 20, 20, 20,
Mhm.
yeah. And then with all of them.
So generally speaking, to board member Sue's question, yes, the student enrollment, the student enrollment numbers does impact the budget, but because of some of the COVID relief items that are in place, our budget is going to remain the same. No.
Aye. Let's move on to the next item, executive session. Do we need to go into executive session?
So that, well, that's really up to the board. We put this in here as a placeholder for the personnel items. So if there is any question or something that you would need to go into executive session. And just a reminder on executive session, it's either for advice from legal counsel, or it's generally speaking, it's either for advice from legal counsel, or it's for personnel items where you would be talking about confidential information, something that you couldn't really discuss in open session. So I can just do a quick rundown of the items, and then you can decide if you need an executive session. One is to approve a new hire of a resource teacher in our special education department, which is so thankful to find. A hire of a Pinyon middle school secretary. The secretary that was there at the last board meeting transitioned to a new position. So this is to hire a secretary to replace her. To hire an emergency substitute teacher. To hire, actually in 7.4, Ms. Falsamito is already here. She was on an emergency teaching contract, but she has cleared everything she needed for her standard certificate. So what we're asking the board to do is just transition her from emergency to standard teacher certification contract. And then we have the hire of an ESS health aide. That's the one where we made the correction when we adopted the agenda. So it would be step 6 at $15.50 an hour. We have an employee who had put in retirement and now wants to withdraw their retirement for next year, wants to stay with us for another year. And then we have a teacher who wants to retire. This is for next school year, Ms. Benali. So not immediately, but at the end of her contract, she wishes to retire. And then 7.8, we have a resignation from a substitute teacher who wants to resign from the district. So board members, basically your options, if any of these sort of stand out to you as something that would need to go into executive session, you can motion to do that now for that item. Or if everything seems straightforward and there's no questions or concerns, if you recall at the last board meeting, one of our board members just made one motion to approve them all, and you did them all at once, or you can take them one by one. It's really at the board member's discretion how you want to handle these items.
Okay, board members, do we need to, we don't need, or we need executive session for any of these items? I feel like we don't need executive session.
So do we vote on this one?
Oh, you don't need to vote on the executive session. You can just go down to personnel 7.1 and you can take them one at a time. If there's no questions, you could motion to approve the whole section. It's really, again, up to the board how you want to handle them.
Okay, so we'll just go ahead and move to personnel.
To me, all these are just straightforward. We concern about each one of them. So I think I would recommend. Approve all the listed on what we read. 7.1, discussion and possible action to approve hire of Pinyon Elementary School resource teacher for school year 2020 to 2021.
Brandon Terrazas is the name.
Well, we're not going to executive session, which would be Brandon, correct?
Terrazas.
MA step 7, $53,500 be the salary. And then 7.2, to approve the hire of female middle school secretary for school year 2020-21, which will be
Kamisha.
Lisa, Yazi, step 5, grade 5, step 1, $50 an hour. 7.3, discussion and possible action to approve, to approve the hire of Christina Yazi as elementary substitute teacher for school year 2020-2021, which will be Christina Yazi at $100 a day as substitute, emergency substitute teacher. 7.4, approve to offer Ms. Brenda
Falsamito.
Bolsonaro a teacher contract for school year 2020-2021 to be effective February 3rd, which is today, 2021, in accordance with the certified placement schedule. I can't talk this thing. And that would be BA, step 9, 51,800. 7.5, discussion to go to the approve the hire of ESS Health aid for school year 2020-2021, which is Reginald Burbank. High school plus 41 would be step 6. And the hour rate is
$15.50. $15.50 per hour.
Yeah, that's the one we correct. Okay.
So 1550.
And then 7.6, to approve withdrawal of retirement from Miss Irene Begay, special ed, health aid. And going to the next one, 7.7, approve a teacher retirement, which is Miss Susie Benali, Pinyon Elementary School teacher, which will be effective May 28, 2021.
There's one more.
7.8. 7.8.
Is there a 7.8?
Yeah,
It's on the bottom. A discussion and possible action to approve a substitute teacher resignation, which is Charlene Tooley.
Oh, I see.
the resignation.
Okay. 7.8, that would be approved substitute teacher resignation from Pinyon School District 4, effective today, the 3rd, which is Ms. Charlene, regular substitute teacher.
And the salaries will be prorated, right, on these,
Correct. So when we hire people after the start of the year, the listed salary is the full annual amount, but then it's prorated based on the
Yeah.
day's work.
Or rated out. Okay, so Joe sees that, she's probably something.
Yes, we,
do I hear a second to this motion?
7.1 all the way down to 7.8. Board member Dixon, we have any vote? Aye. Board member Allen?
Aye.
Board
Aye.
member Dawson? Favor to roll call.
the last item, which does require a motion and a vote, is adjournment.
All adjourned.
Okay, Ms. Allen, motion, and Miranda, second.
So we have any vote? Aye. Allen?
Aye.
Dawson?
Aye.
Three favor to roll call.
Wow.
Thank you. Now, Dorothy, you can take that gavel.
We adjourn now. Sorry.
I have